Sammy, the MRO news is in.
It is. Breaking news from there. Brownlow contender Caleb Serong has been offered a one-match suspension. It's a dangerous tackle on Carlton's Adam Chera. Rough conduct, of course. Careless, medium, high. The grading for 1 week.
Old teammates, was there anything in it?
He's 8th on the line of Brownlow medal betting. I can't even recall the incident. No. And I watched the game. I can't find it online either at the moment. So if anyone can enlighten us, Kane, please do. Collingwood, the Dockers have Collingwood on Saturday. Serong's been one of the few bright spots of Freo's campaign as well. So the season just has another blow attached to it from a Fremantle perspective. Andrew Phillips as well, big flipper for the Bombers. No surprises here. 1 match ban for that bump on Riley O'Brien. So no surprise. That was careless, medium and high. I think if Lance Franklin was going to get a week for a similar act earlier in the year, Andrew Phillips just had to do some time. So he's done so. So that's the news out of the...
I'm laughing at this Serong tackle.
Oh, you found it?
He'll get off. Yeah, well, the Fremantle have just posted it to their Twitter account, and it's a very gentle lay down of a tackle. There's no head contact. He gets straight up, and it's the softest one we've seen this year. So I'm just watching the replay again from a different angle. So Chera's fine. He was almost best on ground.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, they just posted it too. Yep. So clubs have been...
Can you look at that and tell me that he won't get off? There's no way he can get off. It can't get off with that.
This is good radio.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Anywho, the angle's not with me on that one either. I'd just like to see it from the other side. I wanted to speak about Nick Dacos tonight. I know we've spoken about him most nights and everyone does. So I appreciate it's a Groundhog Day topic. But he has every chance to be the cheapest Brownlow medalist, if not in history, certainly in recent history and for a fair period of time. So he's in the second year of a 4-year deal that his management, Connor Sports, struck with Collingwood when he nominated them as part of the father-son process. Now, this was before the 2021 national draft. He's on $255,000 this year. We know that because as per the standard playing contract for second-year players, he's on $140,000 a season because he played the 17 games the year prior. And he's on $5,000 a week match payments. So $255,000. These are the rules in place for second-year players under the standard playing contract in the current CBA. So there's 2 years to come, but regardless of the projections built into that, and there would have been, of course, no one could have anticipated, I don't think, certainly not Collingwood and his management, that it would be to the level that would have him, I think, upon signing his second contract, $1 million plus player. Now, that has happened maybe once before, I can think of with Tom Boyd, who under very unique situation was traded from GWS down to the Western Bulldogs. And I think he played 9 games and kicked 8 goals, and he was presented with a $7 million 7-year offer. But Nick Dacos is going to stay at Collingwood, and he's going to sign his second contract for a 7-figure sum.
On second-year
And
money. That's
yet
the
he's
bottom
going
line.
Potentially he's going to win the Brownlow, where he's a runaway favourite. He's leading the coaches, so he's Lee Matthews MVP written all over it. He could very well be the Copeland Trophy winner. If you think he'd be a real good run with Darcy Moore at the moment. And he'll be All-Australian. 4 massive gongs on $255,000
He will single-handedly get the standard player contract rewritten. No, you have to, because ultimately now they're going to have to put in options for All-Australian. Second year, that's not unheard of. Ben Hart was All-Australian for his first 2 years, and also for these higher honours. As you rightly said, as one of our texts has just told us, last year's Coaches Players Association winner, Oliver and Miller, had a draw. They had 98 votes. Dacos is already on 91.
That's incredible. That's
amazing.
That's a great stat. In NFL football in America, they say the most valuable asset is a quarterback on a rookie contract because they're on that standard money. They've got a salary cap as well. Once they get past the rookie situation, then they all sign these crazy, $500 million deals, some of them. So to have a gun quarterback that isn't paid a lot on a standard contract is the most valuable thing you can have. So what a bonus it is for the Pies.
Huge
Can I
bonus
ask
for
a
the
question? Why is it okay for his wage to be public and no one else's?
Well, no, they all are in the first couple of years because we've got a metric.
Good question from Kane.
Why is that okay?
Oh, well, I don't have a dog in this fight. So I'll answer your question with I simply do not know, and I don't know how to answer that.
It's not affecting Nick Dacos to have his wage publicly plastered wherever you want. You can Google search it up, you can look it up, and he's going to be the Brownlow medalist and the best player in the game. It's not affecting him. So ridiculous that the others aren't there, but that's a topic for another day.
But what a great piece of business from Collingwood. I mean, with the benefit of hindsight, it's an outstanding piece of business. But, gee whiz, they're going to want to have the wheelbarrow ready for the next deal because he might well be the highest paid player in the game in the not-too-distant future.
Well, if you're looking at projections, he will be, when he retires, he will be the highest paid player and made more money out of the game, I suspect, than any other, given that, A, he's the best player in the game, arguably, right now, and he's playing for the club on top of the ladder with a equally biggest following.
And the players are about to be paid more as well. So that's CBA. Just in the nitty-gritty at the moment, they're meeting daily at the moment, Paul Marsh and Gillon McLaughlin, to thrash this thing out. Now, there's still a number of major sticking points, I'm told.
Namely?
All around pay. AFLW season is a big one that they still can't agree on, and season structure as well. The AFL want the 10 and they're not budging, and the PA want more. That's not going away. And what percentage, obviously, the players get as part of the revenue pie. I mean, that's the big part of it all going forward. But they're going to be paid more. We know that. And Nick Dacos, like others, will benefit.
What's happening at the Blues at the end of the year?
Big game, isn't it, coming up? The litmus test, if you like, against 13 in a row Port Adelaide. But what happens with the list at the end of the year as well? And I think, I'm not sure if you put this on the agenda as well, Kane, but certainly a number have, what they do with the list at the end of the year, even if the situation's looking a little bit rosier now than what it was a month ago. So they've got a number of players out of contract. And now Zach Fisher, I don't think will be at Carlton next year. In fact, I'd be surprised if he was. And that's with 2 years to run on a contract. He appears to be on the outer down there and can't get a look in. He's got a hamstring right at the moment. He's played once since round 7. Mitch McGovern can't get the Blues to the table at the moment to discuss a new contract. There are some superior players, I think, without disrespecting Mitch, out on the open market in that position right now, in Ben Mackay, Harry Himmelberg, Mason Redmond, even Asava Ratugolea. I mean, Tom Barras is signed long-term, but there's some smoke around him. So perhaps Carlton don't have to rush here. Nevertheless, nothing there yet. No offer at this point for Jack Silvani, but his last couple of weeks have been important. Jack's happy at Carlton, just wants to play consistently, ideally in a set position, but my understanding, no fresh signature imminent there at this stage. Paddy Dow will be elsewhere. Lockie Plowman will depart, it sounds like. Caleb Marchbank playing for a new deal, and by all reports was good in the VFL at the weekend, and looms as McGovern's replacement if he can't recover from that cork quad, Mitch McGovern. And then there's Tom De Koning, the big elephant in the room, and ongoing at the moment. They continue to brace for a decision on that. There's still no change. St Kilda and Sydney right at the front of the queue. Geelong obviously doing what they always do, and they're competitive in the pursuit, as always, on their terms or not at all. The brother and the family moving down there is the huge lure. So all four options really open at this stage.
Is there an offer from the Blues to De Koning on the table?
Yes.
That he's just letting sit there?
Yes.
Is there an offer from Geelong, which includes a spot in the lineup at Bells for him?
I'm not sure if an offer's been tabled from Geelong, but the indication is that Geelong value him to a very similar level to Carlton. And you can't say that about St Kilda and Sydney, who have got a little bit more room to move in that space. So it's a decision over lifestyle, a decision over future of club, a decision over where he wants to play, not just on the field, but geographically as well.
And who he wants to play with.
And who he wants to play with. All goes into the mix.
Observation number 1, you can't have 2 A-grade ruckmen in your team. Now, a few weeks ago, I said that Fremantle need to trade Sean Darcy because Luke Jackson is a ruckman. He's not a forward. And then he played an okay game and everyone's sort of saying, oh, see, you can play 2 A-grade ruckmen. $1.7 million of their $13.5 million salary cap is tied up in 2 ruckmen. And I'll give you some numbers from yesterday. Minus 52 hitouts, the Blues. Minus 52, Sammy. But they win the clearances, the Blues. They win stoppage score by 22. They kicked 4 throwing goals to 0. You do not need 2 A-grade ruckmen. I think Fremantle have made an error with this. Jackson is clearly their number 1 ruckman. They've invested in him for a long time. Sean Darcy has to be dispensable. Has to be.
Well, the queue for him will be about 14 long.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
So the question, I've got those numbers in front of me too, but is that the ruckman's fault or is it the midfielder's fault or a combination
goes to show
of both?
the value of the impact that ruckmen have on the result because he did his job, right? 70
hitouts to 18.
70 and
How many hitouts to advantage?
To advantage. It was plus 18 or something like that.
A huge amount.
So he's done his job. Now, the midfield isn't firing like it was last year, but there's not much more he can do. So the actual value of the role of a ruckman needs to be put into question. So to have 2 of them...
No, but shouldn't you then be putting the heat on those underneath him to maximise his dominance?
I think the issue is can Jackson become the forward ruckman that they hoped he would be?
Well, I heard he was going to play as a midfielder.
Same thing.
They're petrified to put him as a genuine midfielder. He's a ruckman. He's a better player when Darcy's not in the team.
I think their blueprint in their mind would be going back to Sydney, where they had him, Tracy and Amiss all firing in the forward line, and yet it hasn't been able to fire. But a lot of that is going to be how they move the ball.
It's unthinkable to think you could have Lewis Young and Silvani go up against Jackson and Darcy lose the hit-outs by 52 and win stoppage and win the game comfortably. Win contested footy, win everything.
One first possession too, so Docker's -2 first possession.
One of the worst things in the midfield is when you think you're a chance and you don't know you're a chance. When you know you're not going to win the ruck work, it's a lot better than hoping you're going to win the ruck work because you're just there as a negator. And a lot of clubs should have gone into negating mode on the weekend because they were getting flogged in the centre bounce.
Adelaide have copped a lot of praise this year, and rightly so, but they need to cop their whack when they deserve it. So yesterday confirmed what we all suspected, and that is that they are hometown heroes. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And their forwards in losses, as Hoyne spoke to us about on Tuesday, Gerard, is a real issue for them. We know about Rankin's numbers in losses. He is the AFL's flat track bully, Isaac Rankin. And then you throw in Thilthorpe, who I'm waiting for to come on, the Thil Seeker. He shows a bit and you get sucked in. You go, wow, this guy can be anything.
It's a thrill teaser at the moment.
Yeah, thrill teaser, exactly right. Didn't touch it yesterday. We saw nothing from Fogarty. Rochelle was... I guess scatty is probably the best word for his game yesterday, and Walker didn't give you much until late. So
you expected that?
I expected that their forwards would have their way with Essendon's defenders.
Yeah, I mean, I expected a heck of a lot more. If they had run Collingwood to 2 points only a fortnight earlier at the MCG, and in fact, probably could have, should have.
And beat Melbourne at the MCG earlier in the year.
I expected a heck of a lot more from Adelaide. That was immensely disappointing.
So I think...
No, that wasn't Adelaide, that was Freo, sorry.
Stop getting caught up in the inconsistent nature of it. So if they win this week against GWS, we go, oh, Adelaide, how good are they? Well, we can't get sucked in and react week to week because consistently they've been so
they make the 8, Kane? You
inconsistent.
tipped them earlier in the year?
I don't think they get there now.
Okay.
They got 3 games coming up that are really important starting this week, and there's a showdown in there as well. I don't think they're going to get there. Observation number 3, and this is a sad one. I just wonder whether Max King might be one of those talented players whose body genetically, Gerard, isn't built to cope with the rigours of playing AFL footy. So his injury history now is starting to get really concerning. He's done an ACL. He's popped 2 shoulders, so he's going to need 2 shoulder reconstructions inside sort of 6 or 7 months. He's done a hammy. He's had a nasty ankle injury in 2019, and he's 23. And we've seen it before with some players, unfortunately.
Well, he's one of those kids that, or guys that's got long levers, and his joints get exposed. I mean, it wasn't a very brutal pressure on the shoulder. It was, unfortunately, the reconstruction failed, and he has to go back through it all again.
You're our expert in this space, though. So he would have is it the Latarjet?
I assume I'm not an expert, but they put a bony block in. Yeah, it's screwed down.
That's the deal breaker, though, isn't it? That's the one that's guaranteed, basically. So,
yeah, and that's why it was so strange that it gave as easily as it did. So
that's what he underwent initially.
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All that though,
I don't know, but St Kilda will put out that information under Kane's full disclosure.
Well, you would hope so, but it might be a bit vague, like every other club is at the moment.
And all that, and he's had 100 shots at goal last year and kicked 52.
Oh no,
so
he's nothing to do with his talent. He's a freak.
But as you're just pointing to the fact that if he does get a long run at it and some consistency and availability, the ceiling is
some
enormous.
Players just genetically, and every supporter listening would have one of those talented players who career got derailed through injury, and there's been some high draft picks, and go back to Gumbleton or Anthony Morabito or whoever it is, that their body just for whatever reason genetically hasn't been able to cope with the toughest game in the world. Observation number 4: Luke Beveridge needs to solve the Bailey Smith problem. So I wrote about Bailey Smith on Thursday in The Age, and his form and his drop off from when he was literally dominating September as a 20-year-old. And the decline in him and his numbers to the point now where on the weekend, I think he started on the bench and he goes forward. And you go,
at 11, didn't he?
Yeah, and a lot of those came late. So every stat basically is down. This is on the coach to solve. The coach's job is to get the best out of your player. So I'm not sure the right course of action is to play him as a forward. Imagine if he was if he was playing for Craig McRae at Collingwood, he would solve that Bailey Smith problem. He would play him to his assets. He would play him to his strengths.
Where would you play him?
I'd play him inside.
Yep. Yeah, he was playing inside about 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, or he'd be one of the great wingmen, wouldn't he? Like, he's got everything you need from a wingman. He's courageous. He runs as hard as anyone. He's got good penetration with his kick. Sometimes his kick lets him down. I understand that, but don't give me Caleb Poulter on the wing in front of Bailey Smith. Give me Bailey Smith having the opportunities in the midfield. So it's a watch this space for him.
One effective disposal at half-time, Bailey Smith. No centre-bounce attendances, so that's too good of a player to be wasted.
I want to speak about Essendon with observation number 5. I just loved it. I loved watching them play and what they did yesterday. I thought it was electric. I thought in all facets of the game, they may be a bit disappointed with the finish and conceding a couple of cheap ones in the first half against Adelaide, but it's everything you want. They look a lot more advanced than what I thought they would be, even through stages this year. Their pressure was electric. The way that they're moving the ball and how hard their midfielders run both ways now is really impressive for me. But just to watch, they need more if they're going to win a final from Jake Stringer. Can't have Jake Stringer touching the ball 8 times. And it happens too often, so he needs to work harder, and they need to get a way for him to impact like Jordan De Goey impacts for Collingwood. So I don't know if he's fit enough to do that. Clearly an interrupted pre-season, and maybe they don't have confidence with him as an inside midfielder and to go to centre bounce. But if they're going to have the impact I think they can, Jake Stringer needs to do more.
Cole Langford, is that one of the great accidental discoveries of the season from a positional point of view?
It's been a winner, hasn't it? Certainly transformed their forward line.
Unbelievable. Something that they'd stumbled across by necessity, and now he's just an integral part of that side.
No doubt they're one of the big winners so far this season, the Bombers.
I agree with that. Bombers fans, you must be pretty excited about the capabilities of what you can achieve this year. We had a call at a Fireball Friday on Friday morning who said Liam Baker should be the next captain of Richmond. I thought that's a great call. So I'm gonna take that as observation number 6. And I think with a new coach, changing of the guard at the Tigers, Grimes not impacting Gerard like he has been a great player and a terrific citizen for that footy club, but doesn't have captaincy material about him, and Nank's discipline and his body is an issue. I watch Baker play. He's everything you'd want as a captain. I don't know how he carries himself off the field, but plays wherever you want. Team first, does all the selfless things, is so skillful and is able to impact as big captains do in big moments of games.
Good call from you, Kane. Do you think the incumbent will get the coaching job? I wasn't from you.
It was from a caller.
Fireball Friday caller.
I'm not sure who that caller was, but credit to you. I thought it was an excellent observation. I don't think McWalter gets the job.
Okay.
No. Do you?
I do. Yep.
Sammy?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
There's been some good names for. I've enjoyed Gary and Tim's program last week. They threw up a few names. And some left field ones like a Hayden Skipworth or a Nathan Van Berlo type. I thought one that I know is highly regarded at the Bombers is Daniel Jean Syracusa. There's another one I wouldn't mind having a look at. And Josh Carr's name was also thrown up by Josh Gabelich on our program, Gerard.
I just look at Richmond, I think the system is the system that they've had for so long. It's been a proven system, a winning system. They don't want to change that. I mean, they didn't want Damien Hardwick to leave. That's been thrust upon them. They've got someone here who's been ingrained in the system there for a long, long time. Breath of fresh air, maybe some minor tweaks, but essentially his philosophies are the same as Damien Hardwick's, it would appear. And I thought a big tick for him to engineer the response. So he had a shocker at the hands of the Brisbane Lions. How was he able to get the group back up?
Did it well.
And he did it very well.
And he actually swung a few changes at half-time, which exposed the Swans.
Big tick.
And second lastly, so Christian Petracca, as you called for, Gerard, went forward with huge success. I loved the impact that he had on the game. 20 touches, so under the 32 that he would usually get, but huge impact on the game. So he stays there, right? He stays forward. He'll
7 coaches' votes.
So a watch on, and I'm, as you know, I'm with you. I'm a believer in Melbourne, and I think the reaction to Melbourne's dip in form has been over the top. But the watch on them is, can the midfield without Petracca and the names of Viney, Brayshaw, Jordan, Sparrow hold up with the best midfields in the game? So they play Brisbane this week, who I think have the best balanced midfield in the league, and what McCluggage is doing. Dunkley's probably not going to come back, but Neil, Rayner's been going through there. Bailey, Zorko's back into the team. It's a good test for this unheralded group without Oliver and Petracca in the engine room. And observation 7A is for you, Gerard. Saturday, we have the great slate of games that you've ever seen, and they all overlap.
Oh, no.
They all overlap. So we've got Collingwood and Fremantle, terrific game of footy, overlapping with the Suns and the Saints and the ramifications that has for Stewie Dew and also for the Saints and their top 8 charge. Then we get Carlton and Port Adelaide. Now, you'll get to see most of that without anything overlapping that. But Saturday night, Geelong and Essendon up against Adelaide and the Giants. All overlapping, And the AFL haven't found a way to solve that
I'm
yet.
putting that down. I've got a list.
Good.
I've got a list.
Yep, for the new CEO.
I know Mike Sheen will be he'll be filthy because he's the master of the list.
Could this be part of your observations for this evening?
This is going to be the 7th observation. I've just added it. Another addition to the list.
That was my 7. It's off to Gerard for his observation.
Okay. I enjoy doing this. Okay. Number 1 observation. There's no excuse for centre clearance imbalance. GWS 6-17 versus the Hawks. 2-14 versus Melbourne. So back-to-back, they haven't got it right. Sydney 7-19 versus Richmond. Kangas 0-8 at quarter time versus Geelong. Now, yes, ruckmen play a part, but it's a 4-man equation to get that ball in there. If you lose 1 or 2 in a row, you simply go to what Carlton did on the weekend. You go 100% negative and make sure they don't get the ball out prior to you thinking you're going to get one on the fly and go and kick a torpedo goal. So it's strategy, it's attitude, and if you're getting flogged, go to neutralise mode. Simple as that.
So Horny will be with us tomorrow, Gerard. Champion and the clubs are aware of their most successful combinations.
They are, yeah.
So the 4 that get it done to the highest percentage.
Yeah.
We might ask him a question about that in terms of the most successful centre bounce combinations in the game.
This is why data is so important, and some clubs are really into it and other clubs aren't. But Kingy showed some excellent footage last night on the crack about Luke Parker being exposed 6 times. So if you've got the data there, you say, Luke, as much as you've been one of our greatest, you either change the way you're going about it here, and he got actually out-muscled a few times, or you've got to change the personnel. So that's a pretty simple one. Number 2, Aliir. I got a good, bad and an ugly for Aliir. The good for Aliir. He's having another fantastic season with Moore and May probably vying for the All-Australian key defensive position. There's nothing more he could be doing right now. The bad, well, when he goes from mark, he's a compulsive pusher. He pushes in the back week after week more than any other player, as well as grabbing his opposition, and he's rarely, if any, ever penalised. That's not against him. That's simply against the umpires. The ugly, and it goes to the umpires. They are either poor umpires or poorly coached umpires and have no comprehension of what is going on, or they are completely ignoring it. The infringement's there week after week. Good luck to Aliir, but come on, fellas. Why would you play in front? On the weekend, we saw Levi Casbolt. He appealed about 3 or 4 times, and every time he was 100% right. Number 3, Petracca's impact. You've already mentioned that. No surprise. The only surprise was how long it took to get him there. Number 4, at the start of the year, Kane, I thought North Melbourne would comfortably win 6 games, and a couple of callers called me out and said I was being overly optimistic.
I thought 6.
I sadly was 100% wrong, and while I've enjoyed the emergence of young players, they're a really hard watch yesterday. And speaking of fundamentals, Lockie Young, yesterday you nearly twisted yourself in half trying to handball with your right hand, and it turned into a centre clearance turnover. Fundamentals may save your career, Lockie, so have a look at your left and right side because it may determine how far you go. Any objections there?
No objections at all. I think very fair on North. They probably end up winning 3 for the year, and that's only because they've got West Coast in round 20. Big game this week for the Hawks and North.
It's hard to see him winning another one with another big injury with, who was it went down with a knee? Griffin Logue, yeah. So number 5, a great comeback by Adrian Dodoro. For the last 3 years, we've taken calls from very, very many upset Essendon supporters. Possibly longer, and Adrian Dodoro has been hung out to dry for his drafting and his recruiting by angry Essendon supporters. Regular callers have had him hung, drawn and quartered, but it's pretty clear now that talent ID hasn't been the problem. No one gets them all right, we understand that. But Martin, as a rookie, has been one of his best. You throw in Setterfield, Hobbs, Tumata-Peter, Kelly, D'Ambrosio, Durham, Perkins, Cox, Phillips, Caldwell.
If Cox and Reid could actually stay fit, you'd be even more effusive.
Like Harry Jones too, but he's injured.
Well, there's half a dozen out there I didn't mention that were actually draft picks that really haven't got to the line yet. So well done to you, Adrian, and those protesters down at Bay 101 in Port Melbourne. You can move on.
We've definitely done segments putting him in the gun on Footy Classified before, Adrian. So apologies to that. I mean, there was evidence to say that, you question some of their picks when you haven't won a final for that long. So I think it's fair
an apology?
To question it. No, I think it's a balanced observation that his last 5 years have been very good.
I think the beeper came out. 6. It was finally, but now we've got a 7th. The send-off rule. Now, this has been a bugbear of mine for many years, and there's no doubt surrounding this incident in the era of concussion that there was a case for the send-off rule on the weekend. The culprit should be sent from the ground if the player he hits or bumps is taken from the ground. It's a simple matter of fairness, if nothing else. If it's 100% and there's no question, off the ground you go.
Yep. John Longmire agrees. He reckons he's
turned, has he?
The send-off rule. Said he was opposed to it and he was on the wrong side of it, but it's come out.
Have we got that audio? We have got that audio.
We've only got 40
All right.
a minute, so we might not have to.
We'll have a look at it later or listen to it later.